Well, hey guys, happy Holy Week. Have you ever had your perception change? Something that you thought about something, and then just all of a sudden you have this epiphany and your mind gets changed about it. When I was growing up, I didn't have a high regard for church. And there's a reason for that. Now, my parents, both my mom and dad grew up in Catholic homes. And basically were not churchgoers. My parents were official CEOs of the church. They were Christmas and Easter onlys. They only went on those times, and it was even sporadic then. Uh, the only time I ever really went to church was over the summer. Now, I'm a military brat. My dad moved all over the place. We never lived where my grandparents lived. We would always come back for summer and visit them. And my grandma, who was a staunch Catholic, went to church every day. And so one day I just happened to be up. She wanted to take me to church with her, and I had no idea on my perception at the time was just nothing, and so I went with her. Now, here's the thing you need to know. The night before, I watched The Wizard of Oz. So that's kind of a prelude to what's coming. We're sitting in the pews, and the priest comes up. He's all decked out in his robes, and he has two boys carrying candlesticks, and he was walking behind him, or scepters. I don't even know what they were, but the priest is walking behind him, and he was throwing. Now, I didn't know at the time it was holy water, but he was throwing water, right? He's sprinkling people. And so I'm sitting in the pew and I'm watching, and all of a sudden, bloop, a drop of water hits me, crowded church, and I scream out, I'm melting, my world, my beautiful world. I thought I was hilarious. I'm about 8 years old. I'm the funniest guy in the church. And I instantly knew my perception. I instantly knew that I wasn't that funny because all I heard was, that was it. The next thing I know, my ear was upside down. The lobe of my ear was pointing straight up, and I was being dragged out by my ear by my grandma. Now, I want to say this. When I walked into the church was the first time. Now, I'd been in there before, but I really hadn't. I was a kid. I didn't really notice the church. It was just me and grandma that day, and I noticed this guy hanging on a cross. And I thought it was one of the most scary things, even at that age, that I had ever seen. I didn't understand it. I didn't grasp that at all. And now I'm standing in the back of the church with my ear pointing up. And for a solid hour, my ear never changed positions. It was just pointing straight up. My grandma just standing there. She stayed for the entire service. The pastor blesses everybody, and all of a sudden, the priest with the two boys carrying their scepters come down the aisle. He's behind them, and he gets to the end. The priest stops, and my grandma pulls me over and goes, "This is my grandson, John. He's the funny guy that you heard before church service. We will be in every day for church this summer while he's here." And my perception of church was this place of almost like punishment, right? I almost viewed this as punishment because of my actions, right? And so I see this scary scene of Jesus on the cross. I've now you can't be who I am, right? I'm trying to be funny, 8 years old, and I just didn't have a very good view of church. And that went on pretty much all my life. I didn't see church in a very glowing way. And then I meet my 5'2" Wonder Woman, who tells me, if you're going to date me, you're going to go to church. So I liked her. She was cute, and I was okay, a great place to kill an hour. My actual perception at the time, right? But when I went in with open ears. And I tell people this, when I was listening to what the pastor was saying, I was not hearing theology off the bat. I was hearing history. Now you got to understand me. I love history. I delve deep into history, all kinds of history. And I was hearing history, and every time they would talk about these events, it would pique my curiosity, and I would start to go into looking at the history of, oh, can this be happening? I mean, we know Lee Strobel wrote The Case for Christ. I was in my brain basically case for Christing this, right? I was trying to go, okay, is this real? Could it have happened? And every time I turned and looked, yeah, this was a true happening, a true story. Or they would find the rubble of Jericho or things like that, right? Every time I turned, it was true. And so I got a gift from a pastor, and it was a systematic theology book. And I know the word theology was written on it, but I saw systematic history of Jesus book, right? So it went through all of just the history of the church and how we became who we are in Christ, right? Just kind of all through the years of the church. And it really picked, and so I started delving more and more and more and more into God's word and following Jesus until I became a full-fledged believer, giving my life over to Christ. When Christ kind of hit me with his love and I knew he was in my heart, I gave my whole being to serve him. It became not about me. It became about everything else I could do for Christ, right? Perception, 180 degree. I mean, I was going this way and now God's got me going that way. Well, when we look at Holy Week, the last week of Jesus's life, it's this crazy thing of perception, right? You got Jesus who just has raised Lazarus from the grave in Bethany, and he's cruising down, and he gets down to Jerusalem, and we know that a couple colts are brought in, foals are brought in. Jesus gets on the back of one of the foals, but people had to know he was coming, right? Because the town comes out waving palms, throwing their coats down in front of him, basically giving Jesus a red carpet entry, right? We see the movie premieres and you got the stars of the movie, they're coming out and flash bulbs going everywhere. Man, imagine everybody waving their palms. These are like the flash bulbs flashing everywhere. And Jesus is the conquering hero, right? Hosanna in the highest, the Lord has come, right? They see Jesus as this conquering king coming in to town. Well, and listen, the perception of the Pharisees, they're still on this platform, but right now the Pharisees it's like Jesus is up here and the Pharisees are here, and the Pharisees are sitting down there going, I don't like this. We don't like Jesus. Jesus is teaching something that is totally against what we're teaching. And so we have got to do something to change the perception. Well, Jesus, even though he's doing the right thing, I think helps the Pharisees in a way. He goes into the temple. The people would go into the temple, they would bring sacrifices, they'd go to pray and do these things, and they would enter these different gates. Well, when they would go into the first gate, there was a bunch of people who would be sitting at tables, at booths, kind of like a booth fair. You go and check out everything and see what they got. Well, some people went in and they're in desperate mode, right? They feel that they've got to get this sin that they've committed out. They want to ask for forgiveness and they need a sacrifice. Well, maybe they didn't have a sacrifice. Maybe they didn't have an unblemished lamb. Maybe they didn't have two pigeons that were perfect, or maybe they didn't have the bread that needs to be sacrificed. Well, there was tables, and they would be selling this stuff. And when they would go up to buy it, they would say they wanted a lamb to sacrifice. They would go up. This guy would sell a lamb at extraordinary high prices, right? He would just, it's like when somebody gouges the prices, right? They just raise them up because they know your desperation, that you need this to sacrifice. But they're also selling you goods that aren't up to God's standard. They are selling blemished lambs, or they're selling pigeons that aren't worthy to be sacrificed. God wanted these to be perfect for the sacrifice. Everything we give to God should be our best. And these people are selling not the best. They're also selling stuff to make money for themselves. They're not doing anything that is worthy of what the church is doing. So Jesus sees this, and Jesus gets mad, right? He gets mad. He starts turning. We know he turns over the table and he kicks people out. And I hear this all the time. Well, we say Jesus didn't sin, right? This is sin. Jesus got mad. He's turning over tables. Wait. Slow your roll. This is not sinning. It's emotion, right? We all have emotion. Jesus is 100% man, but I want you to think on this level, right? You go into the church, you bring in a couple buddies, and you go into the church and you decide that you're going to hang up a bunch of shirts in the foyer of the church, and you're selling them for you. But not only do you do that, you decide you're going to roast some marshmallows to sell too. But you decide you're going to put the fire on the floor of the foyer. You stack up some paper, some folders, because that's all you got at the church, right? You're going to stack them up. A few books. They got some really cool books in the church. We'll stack those up. And you go to light the fire, right? And the pastor comes by and he sees you. What's he going to do? He's going to kick out your fire. He's going to take down your shirts and stuff that you're trying to sell. He's going to hand them to you and tell you to get out, right? He's not sinning. He is protecting the house of God. And what these people were doing was actually a way that they were destroying God's house. And Jesus wanted God's house to be clean. So we hear it as he cleansed the temple. He cleans it up. So we have that going on. And then, so the perception is, well, people didn't get what they wanted. So Jesus, oh my goodness, this conquering king, he's not doing what we want. The Pharisees are like going, dude, come on, Jesus, man, you guys, you can't be doing that. You're really rocking the boat. You're really hurting the people. And so the Pharisees start to talk and stuff, and they're manipulating in their mind what they can do to get to Jesus, right? And it just so happens there's a guy in the inner sanctum of Jesus's thing, right? We know him as Judas. The Pharisees come to Judas and they make a deal with him. Hey, Judas, is there any chance we can get at him? If we can get to Jesus and if we can arrest him, we can take care of him. How about you getting us to him? And if you do, we'll give you 30 pieces of silver, right? So the deal is struck. Jesus, all-knowing, right, knows about this. But he knows his time is coming. It's coming quick. So he decides they're going to have this Last Supper. We know this is where we get Holy Communion from. He washes the disciples' feet. He tells that one of them is going to betray him. He actually even says the next person who does this is going to be the betrayer. And the guy Judas does it. Now, didn't anybody perceive, dude, you're the one. But nobody says a word. And he even says that Peter was going to deny him. And Peter, the guy who is the promoter, he's like, no, I'm not going to be the one. But he does, right? We know that then they leave the Last Supper. and they go to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus grabs a couple of his top guys, his top disciples, and he goes and, guys, I need you to stay awake. I know it's late. I know we've had a rough couple days. I need you to stay awake. I just got to pray this out, right? So he goes and he prays. And this is intense prayer, right? And he's praying so hard that he's sweating, but not only is he sweating, he's praying so hard and stressing so hard about what's coming up that he's busting corpuscles or something. It actually says in the Bible that he's sweating blood, right? He's praying so hard. And he even states, God, if there's another way that this can happen, please take it. But if not, let your will be done. Right? He says that. And it sounds like, well, Jesus is chickening out here. No. Again, slow your roll. Jesus isn't chickening out. He states, right? If it's your will, let it be done. But his earthly body, and he's God, right? He's 100% man, 100% God. He knows what's coming. He knows the pain that his human body is gonna have to go through. He knows that he is going to give up his human life in a horrible, horrible way. And anybody who is 100% man is going to be a little bit, hey, if there's another way, I don't have to go through this, take me up like Elijah, right? Something. But let your will be done. Well, Jesus finishes this first round of prayer. He goes, and guess what? The disciples he brought, they're zonked out 3 times. He goes to him and says, stay awake. 3 times he comes back after praying so hard, so just giving everything he's got. And they can't stay awake. He wakes them up. Come on, bro, get up, get up, get up. And by the time they get up, all of a sudden, here comes Judas. He's got the Pharisees and he's got the Roman guard walking up. And now the deal that Judas made says, I'm going to give you Jesus and I'll show you who he is. I will walk up to him and I'll kiss him on the cheek. Judas walks straight up to Jesus, gives him that kiss on the cheek, the greeting that we see all the time, the pecks on the cheek, gives Jesus. And Jesus looks at Judas and so you betray me with a kiss. So that's when all heck breaks loose, right? Peter, the reactor, immediately draws his sword, takes off an ear of one of the guards. I don't know if he did it on purpose. If he's good, that's a heck of a slice. I think it was just a reaction, pulling it out. Guy's ear's in the way. And now he's like, what? But Jesus, in this moment, knowing what's going to happen, shows his love and compassion for others, no matter what side of the aisle they are on. He picks up the man's ear, puts it back on, and heals him right there. And he tells Peter, hey, yo, just chill. They go to arrest Jesus, and we know this. The disciples in that moment, they bolt. They flee. They get out of there. Because, listen, if they're going to arrest Jesus, and Jesus has been predicting his death, they probably feel they're next, and they probably were. So it might have been right that fear, they were gone. So Jesus goes to this mock trial. This is a perception trial, right? We think that it's going to be a fair trial. When somebody goes to court, they're hoping that the judge is fair. You're getting judged by people that are already going to convict you. They know the outcome of Jesus's trial. No matter what Jesus says, no matter what Jesus does, they are going to pronounce him guilty of heresy, and they're going to do whatever they can to get rid of Jesus. And while they're sitting there on trial, people are coming up to Peter. Peter's standing around in the periphery. And people are going, hey, weren't you with Jesus? No, I'm not that guy. Hey, I recognize you. You used to hang with Jesus. Nah, it wasn't me. Somebody who looks like me. I got one of them faces. 3 times. After the 3rd time, rooster crows, bam. The guilt must have been hidden, because that's exactly what Jesus predicted in the Last Supper. So Jesus is convicted by the Pharisees. He's taken to Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate is sitting there trying to figure out what Jesus's crime is that is so bad that the Pharisees want to get rid of Jesus. And he questions Jesus, and he can find no wrong. Pontius Pilate, I feel, gets his whole guilt in this is lack of movement. He's afraid to make a decision that's going to upset the Pharisees. So what does Pontius Pilate do? He washes his hands of the whole thing, and he gives it actually back to the Pharisees. Okay, guys, hey, I'm going to give you an option here. I'm going to give you an option. I'm going to take the worst of your people, the one who murders, rapes, steals, plunders, does all these bad things. And I'm going to let you decide. You can have this guy be freed from jail, or we will arrest Jesus. And the crowd immediately starts chanting the name of, not the innocent, not Jesus. They are so willing to take care of Jesus that they will let out the worst of the worst and start screaming his name, Barabbas, Barabbas, Barabbas. So Pontius Pilate again, washing his hands, frees Barabbas, has Jesus put in the center and goes, now that you've convicted him, what shall we do with him? And I imagine the perception of the people is like, listen, this was the guy that came in we were waving palms for. But the Pharisees are so determined that they are going to take care of Jesus that they start screaming, crucify him. And my mind always goes, was it just the Pharisees who started the chant, crucify him? Was it one voice? Was it like the lead Pharisees that said it first? But all of a sudden, the entire crowd is screaming, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And again, Pontius Pilate, we're going to prepare him for crucifixion. They take Jesus off into the back. And this is when we see the reenactments or the movies. This is the horrible, I mean, it breaks my heart every time to see Jesus whipped, the crown of thorns placed upon his head. People, when he's walking, are taunting him by going, if you're God, get yourself, you ain't no God. You can't get yourself out of this situation. Gods don't do this. Gods don't die. And all of a sudden, you know, they're mocking him. They actually make him carry his cross. Can you imagine? You've got to, you get this sentence of death, and you've got to carry your own electric chair or the poison that they're going to put in your body to the place they're going to do this to you. He's got to carry his own cross to Golgotha, Skull Mountain. He gets the cross, some help, yes, because he's so weakened in this moment. They lay the cross down, and they lay Jesus upon it, and then chink, 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 bang, bang, bang. They nail his hands and feet to the cross, and they raise him up. 6 hours, Jesus sat on that cross. Said 7 things, but the last thing he said is, it is finished. And I've said this to you before. I do not believe that Jesus is saying that he is dying. This is his last breath that he's going to take. I think when he says it is finished, the bill has been taken care of. Your tab has been taken care of. Your sin has been taken from you and put upon Jesus. I think in that moment when he says it is finished, the last sin comes into Jesus, the last sin in the world. Think about that. Everybody in the world, even at that time when it's not as crowded as it is now, that's still a lot of people. And every sin that every person has committed is thrust upon Jesus. And after he says that and takes that last sin from you, he dies. They bury him, put him in the tomb, and then, guys, all that sadness, all that perception of Jesus being this bad guy, this heretic, changes because Sunday comes. It's Easter Sunday, bro. And Jesus, the stone is rolled away. Jesus is not in the tomb. Jesus has risen from the grave. The women who come to anoint his body are shocked to find Jesus gone. Who stole our Savior? Who stole the Messiah? Who stole Jesus' body? Angel sitting on a rock, probably just chilling out, going, dude, you're looking for Jesus? He ain't here, man. He is risen. That's why we celebrate Easter. That's why the perception of my faith has changed, because Jesus took everything that I thought before. He took it away. He made me see who he was. He didn't force it. He didn't put it upon me and said, you got to do this. He gave me the option to realize who Jesus was. And when I realized who he was, I wanted every bit of it. I wanted to be a part of that. And that's why I serve like I do. That's why I am wired like I am. I've got so many people to thank, like my wife, friends, people that have invested in me. But more than all that, I've got Jesus to thank, because Jesus died on that cross to take away the sin, the thoughts that I had, the perception that I had of him before this moment, to now know who he is, and then to know that he is risen to the Father, paving a path for me to get to him if I believe in him. Dude, that's what Easter is about. And I hope you see that. I hope your perception of who Jesus is this loving, caring God who wants you, who desires you, who is jealous for you, not of you. He's not jealous of you. He's jealous for you. He loves you so much that he desires your being in heaven. He desires it so much that he died for it. And guys, I pray that you see this Easter Sunday differently. I hope you see that you are loved, you are cherished, and you have a place in heaven with Jesus and God. Have a great Easter. We love you. Talk to you again. Bye.